So on workbook page 51, we talked about this problem number 1. And in this problem, guessing probably is going to work out pretty easily. But in some problems, we are going to have to actually write a linear equation or write an equation in order to be able to solve them. So let's take a look at page 52. We'll work through these examples together. So when we're writing an equation, one of the first things that we really want to do is if we're choosing a variable, we actually also want to define that variable. So we're going to practice that in all 3 of these problems. Starting with problem number 2. This is another one where guessing and checking might work, but we're going to try it algebraically. So number 2 says, the sum of 4 consecutive even integers is negative 28. What are the integers? So keeping in mind, we talked about this already, but we have the word consecutive. So that really means, in our own words, it means in a row, right? So 4 consecutive even integers, we don't know what they are. 2, 4, 6, 8. They could be 10, 12, 14, 16, right? But in a row, they are 4 even integers. When you add them up, the sum, right, it's negative 28. So obviously we're going to have 4 negative numbers here. What are the integers? So we're going to start by just choosing a variable. We'll just make it nice and easy and choose x. So we're going to say, write a little statement defining that x. So we're going to say let x represent the smallest even integer. So now I'm going to use the letter x to write this equation. I know I'm going to be adding 4 things together, 4 even integers, and I'm going to equal negative 28. We are going to go through solving this. We're not just going to write the equation. So let me actually leave some space in order to solve. Equals negative 28. So my smallest even integer, again, is going to be x. I'm adding these 4 integers together. So I have x, and then I'm going to have, that's my first integer, plus my second integer, plus my third integer, plus my 4th integer, has to equal negative 28. So let me just scoot this over a little bit. So I'm going with even integers. So if my first even integer, let's pretend it's 10. My second one is 4. So that second one is x plus 2, right? Starting with x. If it's 10, 10 plus 2 is 12. So I have my first 2 even integers. My third would be x, if it's 10, which it's not, plus 4. Even integers, and then x plus 6, right? So again, the answer is not 10, but I'm just pretending using some numbers just to see if they make sense in my equation. So if x is 10, then that would be x plus 2, that's 12, x, which is 10, plus 4, which is 14, x, which is 10 plus 6, so 16. Are these 4 consecutive even integers? 10, 12, 14, 16? Yes, they are. And I could have picked any even integer to start with just to kind of double check and see if my equation makes sense. I could have said x is 2. Well, 2 plus 2, 4. 2 plus 4, 6. 2 plus 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. Again, I have 4 consecutive even integers. So my equation works. Now I can focus on solving. I added all of these parentheses, which might make this look very confusing. I don't need them since I'm just adding everything together. So I'm going to start by combining like terms. So my like terms, I have an x plus an x plus an x plus an x is going to give me 4x. And then my other terms, I have plus 2, plus 4, plus 6. 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. So now I have added combined like terms, and now of course this equation looks a lot more simple. All right, just a quick little two-step equation here. I'm going to start by undoing the addition or subtraction first. So I am going to subtract both sides by 12. 12 minus 12 is 0, so I'm left with 4x on the left-hand side of the equation. And negative 28 minus 12 is negative 40. Keeping in mind, my goal is to get x alone, so I need to divide both sides by 4. 4x divided by 4 leaves me with x, and negative 40 divided by 4 leaves me with negative 10. So x is my solution to the algebraic equation. Now I have to make sure that I am answering the question that I'm being asked. So I'm running out of room, so I'm going to try to squish it in somewhere. But it's asking me, what are the integers? So if my smallest integer is negative 10, I would want to write a little sentence as my answer. The integers are, so negative 10, that's my smallest. Even, right? What's my next one? Negative 8, yep, right? Because 10 is the smallest, so I'm getting closer to 0. Negative 6 and negative 4. So make sure you have a sentence, make sure we have answered the question, right? So my question was, what are the integers? The integers are negative 10, negative 8, negative 6, and negative 4. All right, moving on to problem number 3, something similar. And this one probably not going to be as easy to guess and check because we do have this extra piece of these consecutive integers being divided by 4. Oh, I didn't realize I was still on highlight. Let me get rid of that. These integers are being divided by 4. So again, I'm going to start off by defining a variable. I'm just going to choose x again. So let x represent, well, what is x going to represent? I have the sum of two consecutive odd integers is divided by 4 is 16. What are the integers? So again, let's x represent the smallest, in this case, odd integer. It's important because when we get an answer, when we get x equals, we have to remember, well, what is x standing for? What is it talking about in the context of this problem? So I have the sum, so now I'm going to add some things together, of two consecutive odd integers. So I have x plus an odd integer. Well, if x is 1, then I could have 3, right? It's still 2 more, which might seem a little strange because we think of 2, we think of an even number. But in this case, it's going to be odd. The sum of two consecutive odd integers divided by 4 is 16. What are the integers? So now I have my problem, right? Now I can solve, see if it makes sense. So this whole top part is being divided by 4. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this, right? It's going to make our problem a lot easier. So since this is all being divided by 4, if I want to start getting x alone, I want to get rid of this 4. So if I multiply both sides by 4, this 4 is going to cancel out over here. I'll be left with x plus 2 equals 16 times 4 is 64. Now that I have that division part gone, the left side of my equation looks a little bit more simple. I'm going to combine like terms. So I have an x plus an x. So I have 2x plus 2 equals 64. Working to get x alone, let's subtract 2 from both sides. I'm going to be left with 2x equals 62. Still working to get x alone. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. 2x divided by 2 leaves me with 1x, or just x. And 62 divided by 2 equals 31. So remember, x is the smallest odd integer. So I still do have to answer the question. What are the integers? The integers are 31, that's my smallest. 2 consecutive odd integers. What is the next odd integer? 31 and 33. So that's important, right? Writing that sentence, finishing it out. And I can double check if you don't believe me. Just down here quickly, I can plug these. I can see if these 2 consecutive odd integers divided by 4 really is 16. So I'm just going to check myself down here. 31 plus 33, the sum of 2 consecutive odd integers divided by 4, does that equal 16? Well, 31 plus 33, we can just do that math first real quick, right? Is 64. So I'm left with 64 divided by 4. Does that equal 16? Yes, it does. So my equation worked, my solution worked. Those are the 2 integers that we were looking for. Problem number 4, I'm going to set it up for you, and then I'm going to allow you to go ahead and try solving it and seeing if it makes sense. There's a lot to this one, right? There's a lot more words. So the sum of 13 and twice a number is 7 less than 6 times the number. What is the number? So you'll see this a lot, right? What is the number? Well, we don't know what the number is. That's basically the definition of a variable. So we're just going to say let x represent the number, whatever that number is. So now that we have this variable defined, we can go back through, reread the problem, and see if we can set up an equation. The sum of 13 and twice a number, we don't know what the number is. The sum of 13 and twice a number is 7 less than 6 times the number. So I'm not sure if you remember this from maybe 6th grade, right? When we have this, when we see the word than, it's a reverse order number. So instead of writing 7 minus 6x, I'm reversing the order because of this word than. So I do have to write 6x minus 7. So I'm gonna have you guys try solving this one on your own, including writing that sentence to answer what is the number. Basically, you're solving for x, right? All right, I want to know, what does x equal?